So, hello, everybody, and welcome to our Clienteling 101 series. Today's topic is impactful morning meetings. I'm joined by my colleague, Jeff Ellis, who is the Vice President of Sales here in the Americas at BSPK. Jeff has an impressive background in luxury retail, including manager experience. So, here at BSPK, we believe in extraordinary customer experiences. That extraordinary customer experiences start with the people on the sales floor, and a unified and organized team is imperative. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Jeff, and we will go ahead and get started. And I would just like to remind everybody to go ahead and keep yourself on mute, and we will have some time at the end for you to drop some questions in the chat. All right. Okay, Jeff, we'll go ahead and get started. So how do you structure your morning meetings to ensure they are focused and productive for the team?
Sure. Well, that's a great question. I think, the important thing is consistency. And when I worked in retail, I kind of had my own format that I followed. So I would always have an intro where I would introduce the topic, whatever that may be. And then before I got into actually teaching the topic, I would come up with some thought-provoking questions for the team. So if I was teaching a new skill or a new topic, I would ask, well, how are we doing that today? Or what do you feel are some of the challenges in this particular area that you encounter today? We'd have a brief discussion, and then I would get into teaching the topic, whatever that might be. Go through all of the different deliverables for that topic, and then ask if anyone has any questions. And then I would get into setting the expectation. And I think that part is probably the most important part, because anytime that you teach a new topic to somebody, you always need to define what the follow-up is going to look like. So I would usually set the expectation that I'm going to be on the sales floor, maybe for the next 2 hours. I'll be observing interactions. I'll be helping you with your customers. And, I really want to make sure that I see some of this new skill that I've taught be incorporated into your selling ceremony. And if you encounter any difficulty, I'm here to help. So that's kind of how I structured my meetings. And I would always structure them the same way, so that way we have that consistency each day.
Yeah, exactly. I think setting clear objectives and prioritizing what needs to be done is crucial. And having a structure that can help the team know what to expect can help them focus on completing the goals.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right. So how do you come up with the topics for your morning meetings?
Sure. Well, usually what I would do is I would think about, what are our deficiencies as a team? Where are we lacking? Or, where is there an opportunity? I think however good that you are at something, I think there's always room for improvement. And, I really believe that it's important for managers to spend a lot of time on the sales floor, observing and just watching interactions for quality control, right? So when I was on the sales floor, I would observe interactions, and I'd see, cumulatively as a team, where do we need some help? And I think when you spend time on the sales floor and, you're watching those interactions, you're communicating with customers, I think those topics will come very naturally and they'll be very clear to you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about assessing the team's needs. And like what you said, it's important for the manager to be on the sales floor and be aware of what's happening. And, the success will be more likely when you're covering topics that are specific to the team and what challenges they're currently facing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what techniques do you employ to keep morning meetings engaging?
Sure. I think that's a great question. What I typically do, I think there's two things that are important here. I think, for ensuring that the information is absorbed, I think the repetition is important, right? So if you only deliver something one time and then you move on to a new topic the next day, there's going to be people who perhaps were off the day prior. or maybe just the information didn't sink in the way you intended. Maybe they were tired, maybe they weren't paying attention. So I like to utilize repetition to ensure that the information is absorbed. So typically, I like to deliver a morning meeting for a week straight, the same topic, right? So the first couple times it's more of a formal delivery. And then after that, it's more of a discussion. Okay, great. So, we've reviewed this topic for several days. How's it going? What stories do you have to share? Or, what pain points do you have that maybe we can have a discussion about? But I think that repetition aspect is really important. The other thing is, keep it positive, keep it light, make sure you're smiling. Nobody likes to feel like they're being lectured or told what to do. So I think it's really important when you deliver meetings, have it be as a team. It's not you do this, right? It's we're going to do this together, right? And I'm going to be there with you. And if I'm asking you to do something that's new and perhaps uncomfortable, that's okay. You don't have to be a master at it right away. I'm going to be there with you. I can help you. And I may not necessarily have all the answers, but usually when we talk things through, we can probably figure out a good path forward. I would also say, if you want to bring some coffee or some donuts, I know my teams were always, very motivated by food. Not every day, of course, but, once in a while as a treat, it can be a really nice way to, just kind of pick your team up and get them in good spirits. Sometimes what I would do is, maybe like every other week on a Monday, when we started our morning meeting topic, I would bring in some coffee for everybody, and I knew everybody's drink order, and it always got everybody in a good mood. It's nice to have coffee in the morning.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great way to get your team to look forward to a morning meeting too, and like help keep it engaged and keep them motivated. And like what you said, it's definitely important to highlight positive things that had happened and show appreciation to your team, and then always end with an action item.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. How do you balance the need for information sharing while keeping the meeting concise and time efficient?
Sure. Well, I think this can be actually very difficult. It seems like it would be easy, but I know for myself specifically, I tend to be very detail oriented. So I like to explain all the details and be very specific. But usually in a retail setting, you only have, 10, 15 minutes to deliver that morning meeting. And I think the other part is sometimes when you give too much information, especially early in the morning, people may not absorb it. So what I would do is I would always plan out my morning meetings. I would try to do it the day before if possible. If not, I would try to do it the morning of, but give myself a little bit of time before I conducted my meeting. And I would think about, okay, I have my topic that I want to discuss. What are the important points for this topic? What are the most crucial things for the team to know? And sometimes it can be helpful to just kind of write those things out as bullet points, right? And maybe there's some points that aren't as important. So prioritize the things that you really want to talk about, drive those points home, and anything that isn't absolutely necessary, maybe eliminate that from your meeting. Those are definitely conversations that can be had on the sales floor, but I think you really want to keep your meetings simple and to the point. If you're trying to modify behavior and get your team behind a certain task or initiative, keep it simple, keep it direct, and just focus on the points that are really going to help to move the needle. I think that would be my advice.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we can all agree that, you start to lose interest too after things drag on for a while. So it's important to, set the clear objectives and keep everybody on track. And then, like what you said, have a brief agenda and make sure you allocate a small amount of time for everything that you want to cover.
Definitely.
Great. All right, Kim. How do you ensure that the topics from your morning meetings are actually being utilized by the team?
Sure. Well, I think this comes back to that follow-up piece that we discussed. And I think that's why this is the most crucial part of the meeting, right? So at the very end, you want to set the expectation, right? I've already taught you the material. We've gone over it together. So now I need to set the expectation. I think this is where it's so important for managers to be involved on the sales floor. You can take turns amongst your management team, but there should always be a manager on the sales floor. There should always be a manager on duty. And I think it's important when you're on the floor, don't be serving beverages to clients, don't be, packaging things. If you're the manager on duty, actually be there and observe those interactions with customers, get involved in the interaction, have your team introduce you to their customers so that you're involved in that sale and can help to provide a great experience. But I think if you're involved on the sales floor, you're there with your team and actually viewing and listening to what's happening, I think that's where you're going to be the most impactful. And I think when you see something maybe that differs from what expectation you set, you need to make sure you provide in the moment coaching, right? So I can say, hey, I think you did a really great job, closing that sale. Your customer seemed really happy. So great work. But a couple things I noticed were, one, two, three. And I'd really like to see, XYZ implemented, for your next sale. So, if you could really make a commitment to implementing that in your selling ceremony, I really appreciate it. And I think you're going to see even better results going forward. So, that would be an example of how I would coach somebody. I always try to explain the situation, the behavior that was observed and the impact of that behavior, and then what I would like to see going forward. And I think if you're involved on the floor, if you're there with your team, you can be sure that what expectations you set are implemented.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's super important for managers to be involved and knowing what's going on the sales floor. And like what you said, just being able to follow up, and these can be informal or formal, small follow-ups and communication throughout the week, just to check in with your salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. Can you describe a specific instance where a morning meeting led to a significant positive outcome for your team or organization?
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a great question. So one of my past roles, I had observed an opportunity for our repair experience. We weren't offering a bad repair experience, but it wasn't a great one either. It was just very mediocre. And one of the observations that I made, and also something that I discovered in speaking to my team, was that they really needed a mindset shift. They viewed repairs and after service in general just sort of as a chore rather than an opportunity. So I created a morning meeting about providing an exceptional repair experience, and I educated my team about, this is an approximation of how much our repair customers in the last several months have spent overall. And these are all people, all clients who have spent money with our company, right? So these aren't just walk-ins. With a walk-in, it's sort of 50-50, right? Whether you close a sale to them. But these are people who have already shopped at our company, who are already customers of our brand. So what a great opportunity to build a relationship and potentially sell them something extra. So what we did is, we had a discussion around it, about shifting our mindset about how we view after service. And we created some, what I like to call focus trays. And these were trays of complementary items, of things that were frequently brought in for repair, some accessories that would go with them, that we could bring out to every repair client when they dropped off their repair. So a customer would come in, they would drop something off. We'd say, oh, wow, what a great piece. You have amazing taste. By the way, I have some new pieces that came in that I think would be an amazing accoutrement to this product and would go with it so well. So we would bring out one of those focus trays. And if my team forgot, I would always bring it over for them. And then they would present those items to their customers. And every single day we were cleaning off those trays. And And I think after that happened, then my team finally started to see, okay, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to re-engage somebody, to meet new people, and to sell additional items to complement that product, or perhaps something new, if their item was going to be in repair for a while. So that's just one that comes to mind right away, and it was the result of a morning meeting discussion that we had.
Oh, I mean, that is an awesome success story. Thank you for sharing that. And I think too, as you start morning meetings and these sorts of things happen, it's really important to recognize these positive outcomes in the morning meetings, just to keep things fun and exciting as successes happen. All right. Do you have any other best practices that you can share with us, Jeff?
Sure. Well, I would say I have two. So I would say consistency and repetition. I like to keep things simple. I like to keep them easy. So I think having a consistent way that you deliver your meeting topics is important, both for yourself for planning, and also for your team for understanding and digesting the information. So whatever format works for you, whatever you think works best, come up with a format, come up with how you like to deliver topics and what works best for you and your team, and keep it consistent. Do it the same way every single week. And the other part is repetition. Training is not a single event, it's an ongoing process, right? So I can train somebody one time, but if I don't follow up and I don't talk about it ever again, it's not going to be implemented and it's not going to be absorbed. So I need to make sure that I'm constantly talking about something, especially if it's important. We need to talk about it often. Make it a habit, talk about it the entire week during your morning meetings, bring it up on the sales floor. Some people are better at absorbing information than others. So if there's some people on your team who are still struggling, keep talking about it, talk about it again. But I think that consistency and repetition, if you do both of those things, I think that your morning meeting topics are going to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with consistency, they know what to expect each time, and the repetition, you're not going to become the best at something by just doing it once. So,
Great.
well, great. Thank you so much, Jeff. I'd like to go ahead and open the floor to any questions. So if anybody has some, you can go ahead and drop them in the chat.
No questions? I guess we were very
Everybody
quick.
shy. Well, if nobody has any questions, I guess we could go ahead and move on. So our next event is going to be on November 7th at 9 a.m. And the topic will be getting ready for the holidays. And that is all that we have for you guys today. So I want to say thank you guys for attending. You're going to receive an email with a recording to this event, as well as a link to register for our next one. So we hope to see you guys all there. Oh, and it looks like Jessica has a question. Give her a moment to.
So are there topics that you suggest talking to your team about for October and November? Sure. Well, I think that's really going to vary by store. I think as the leader of the store, I think you need to determine specifically, what you think your team may benefit from, and develop your topics accordingly. I think also, we've just entered Q4, so the holidays are right around the corner, and I think prepping for the holidays is going to be so important. That's going to be our next Clienteling 101 call. So we'll have an in-depth conversation about what that looks like. But I think that's something you definitely need to start thinking about, even though it's a couple months away, really start thinking about what that preparation is going to look like from an operations standpoint, from a clienteling standpoint, especially. Are there any assets that your team needs in terms of, evites for store events, or, product pictures, or scripts for outreach, or customer lists. So I think, really giving some thought to Q4, where your business is at for the year, and analyzing what you need to do in this last part of the year in order to end on a positive note is really important. And I think those could be some great topics that you can review with your team. Do you recommend sending an agenda to the team via text? You can. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you can send something in advance, that may be nice, because then your team can think about it and give it some thought. And that way, perhaps they can come to the meeting with questions. I think anytime that you can promote a dialogue, I think that's always a positive thing to do. Great.
Any other questions? So thank you, Jessica. All right. Well, if that is it for everybody, want to say thank you again, and you will receive an email with the link to this recording and the registration for our next event.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for everyone. Bye.